Pekný neskorý večer, vážení priatelia.
Good evening, dear friends. This time from Rajs, where the series of MDZ celebrations continued. Thank you to all those who participated. They create a fantastic atmosphere. Our opponents often ask us above all why we celebrate International Women's Day. Well, it is true that since the formation of the Slovak social democracy in 1999, we do it every year. It is a great tradition. But perhaps the best answer to the question why is the opposite. And what are we supposed to celebrate International Women's Day to those who do not know what they are? We have it clear in our heads. For us, marriage is the only connection between a man and a woman, and we recognize only two aspects of a man and a woman. Simply a healthy mind. Dear friends, and quite a few people with whom I meet these days, express great concerns in connection with the war conflict in Iran. They are beginning to realize more and more how dangerous it is to have several regional conflicts. They know they can lead to a world war. They are afraid of uncontrolled growth of energy, to which it eventually gradually comes. Many are wondering what will happen if there is a shortage of gas or oil. The relentless, brutal violation of international law by large and powerful states further encourages more and more to the cowboy style of dealing. What the Ukrainian President Zelenskyy predicted when he threatened the Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán, however, crosses all red lines. I understand the soft position of the Ukrainian president, to which he allowed himself to be manipulated by the war-loving and Russian-occupied Western countries. But he did not justify it. Our decision to stop the supply of oil and electricity to Ukraine and the Hungarian decision to block the military supply to Ukraine are only a logical consequence of the stupid step of the Ukrainian president to stop the supply of goods to Slovakia and Hungary. The Ukrainian president permanently harms us and thinks he is forcing us to change our peaceful stance to war. He is absolutely wrong here. He does not know. In addition, the 90 billion war benefit for Ukraine, to which neither Slovakia nor Hungary nor the Czech Republic participates, is not a benefit, but an ordinary gift. Because from these 90 billion euros, Ukraine will not pay anything, as it will not pay anything from the other 100 billion euros it has retained, and which should motivate it to fight the Russian Federation to the last Ukrainian soldier. Supply of oil from the territory of Ukraine is vital for us. However, it is obvious that the Ukrainian president should not continue in them, which will mean huge losses for us, both in terms of commodities and in terms of prepaid payments. Otherwise, it should be noted that the refinery Slovnaft began to draw oil from the state reserves within the declared state of oil supply. On Tuesday morning, I will meet with the President of the European Commission in Paris, and he will ask me a simple question. Until when will the European Commission prioritize the interests of Ukraine as a non-member state of the European Union over the vitally important interests of Slovakia and Hungary as a member state of the European Union? In addition, I will propose that the Commission force the Ukrainian president to allow the visit of places where the oil pipeline is damaged. Our information and satellite images confirm that there is nothing in the oil pipeline. If we ask, I have no doubt that the Ukrainian president is able to destroy the oil pipeline. After all, even the destruction of the Nord Stream submarine by Ukrainian special units could not have taken place without his knowledge. Likewise, I propose to the President of the European Commission Slovak refinery capacity, if it is really necessary to tighten a screw on the oil pipeline of the Society for Ukraine. Well, but the most important message will lie in the fact that Slovakia is ready to take the staff to Hungary if necessary. As of now, 90 billion military supplies for Ukraine are effectively blocked. However, I am not naive. The Ukrainian president is talking about the renewal of supplies a month or a month and a half, that is, after the elections in Hungary, where he relies on the victory of the opposition. Then there will be no chance of oil from the east, only that someone else would take the Hungarian staff. Blocking this huge military gift for Ukraine is a legitimate tool to achieve a renewal of oil supplies. In any case, the Council of the European Union is now in power. Dear friends, I believe that meeting with the President of the Commission will create a space for a brief exchange of views on measures that the Commission should propose to reduce the price of electricity in the European Union. It is up to us in the Union what prices of electricity we will have, whether they will be burdened with senseless climate goals or rationally enabling the energetically demanding European industry to survive and be competitive with China, India or the United States, where prices are twice as low. As I promised, we will do everything to renew the production of primary oil in oil-on drones, which had to be stopped for crazy prices of electricity, and I'm absolutely not interested in the government of Mr. Matovic, Hager or Odor. On Monday, we had another coordinated meeting at the government office. We are preparing financially demanding measures. For now, we are focusing only on what we can do on our own. However, it would be enough if the member states of the European Union agreed to a new creation of an affordable price of electricity. It is quite simple, but I do not know if it will not win the interest of speculators with emission exemptions in the face of the vital interests of the member states of the European Union. I will certainly open the topic of the election of the Ukrainian president and the price of electricity at the nuclear forum in Paris, where I am supposed to speak. I hope that these topics will be relevant even at the dinner of the French president, with the participating prime ministers and heads of state. Dear friends, we are not only threatened by wars, shortcomings and high prices of energy, or the actions of the Ukrainian president, but also by the threat of a nuclear war, which in the case of supplies of coals and gas will damage us wherever it is possible. The invasion of Iran creates a huge pressure on another widespread crisis associated with illegal migration. We may have seen something similar in Syria. Military adventures of Western countries in Iraq, Libya or Afghanistan, motivated by coals or other reasons, have left behind only devastated state structures, chaos and despair for the population. And these are the main factors of illegal migration. First of all, we should make sure that the chaos, despair and overthrow of the Iranian state structure are not the only result of a military attack on this country, and that the retaliatory actions of Iran on neighboring countries do not lead to the escalation of this regional conflict to the world scale. In any case, we must again properly prepare for possible waves of illegal migrants. I will ask the Minister of the Interior and other responsible members of the government to mobilize all the tested methods of preventing illegal migration, and for this purpose, to perform the necessary exercises in the designated border areas. I can, against Slovak and anti-government media and the opposition, stand behind the fact that the main task of the government in these months is, first of all, not to allow Slovakia to be dragged into any military adventure and fight for peace. Secondly, to do everything necessary to protect Slovakia from illegal migration. And thirdly, to fight for the national state interests of Slovakia in the supply of vitally important resources such as gas and oil. Here, in the end, there is also an abysmal difference of opinion between the current government coalition and the opposition children. Those with unrequited enthusiasm call for war on Ukraine, welcome the invasion of Iran. They would expect illegal migrants with open arms and with gas and oil. They would prefer purity of ideological reasons and hatred to much more expensive supplies, if at all supplies from other parts of the world, than from the Russian Federation. Dear friends, and in the end, two more notes on the domestic events, which confirm the measure of the opposition Pharisees, and especially that they do not dare to lie just to harm Slovakia and create the worst image about it. I will start with the cry of the opposition and the media to the President of the Slovak Republic, Peter Pellegrin, in the case of the indictment of the director of the Slovak Information Service, Pavel Gasper, for the ordinary traffic accident in which nothing happened together. It is said to be a small crime that the director of the SIS should resign, and similar nonsense, as well as the organization of demonstrations and protests demanding the resignation of the director of the SIS for this traffic accident. Dear opposition children, if you do not want to look like completely lost in a cornfield, as Bela Bugar usually says, remember the former special prosecutor Lipsik. He always demanded unconditional punishment for the abduction of freedom for any driver who caused a death in a traffic accident. When it happened to him and killed a passerby on the way, he did everything he could to get out only with conditions, and he succeeded. And you, opposition children, were quiet. The worst thing is that then you also refused this man and elected him as a special prosecutor. There is no country in the world where a special prosecutor could become a man who would kill a man on the way by a passerby. So in the future, think 3 times about what you will say if you are to attack the director of the Slovak Information Service because of his minor traffic accident. And as far as the creation of...
A to sa mu aj podarilo. A vy, opozičné decká, ste boli ticho. Horšie je, že potom ste tohto človeka ešte aj odmenili a zvolili ste ho za špeciálneho prokurátora.